let's get started. So if you have your smartphones, you can take it out. You can connect to Facebook live streams. If you have your own Facebook account, go there. We're also running a free Wi-Fi tonight, no password. Take out your iPads, laptops, whatever you have, and you can connect to live stream. Just connect. No problem right there. And you see all the information there on the screen. And so we're going to turn it over to the three people up on the stage. That's Trisha. She's going to go first.
I am. Wow,
Yeah.
what a surprise. Thanks. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, if you have any questions or comments during our presentation tonight, feel free to email me at interact@livestreamsonline.net on your smartphone, or you can text on your not-so-smartphone or your smartphone to me at 714-367-6113, and the number is always in the middle of your table in that little packet of information. Or there's some great cards that you can write on as well. So please feel free to write on those, and I'll be happy to take your comments up here as well. Also, we have a new devotion out. This is called Smoothie to Go for high school and college. Please feel free to pick these up for anyone you know that is in that age range. And it is ready for you, debuting tonight.
All right, thank you, Trisha.
Just want to remind everybody about our prayer time right after this meeting. And I've said it before, but let me remind you that God can hear your prayer even when you do it silently. So if you're not accustomed to public prayer, it doesn't matter. Come on over there and be with us. The ball game's already over, so forget going home to see it, okay? Cardinals won tonight, I'm sure, so that I can watch it next night. Come over and meet with us in prayer time.
Okay, Candy.
All right.
You're up next.
Yep. I don't know if you've gotten your Java for Life in your inbox. We're enjoying it immensely. The nice thing I love about Pastor Tay's devotion that comes into our email is it's so doable. It doesn't take a long time. They're always profound and food for thought. So make sure you sign up for your Java for Life.
All right, thank you, guys. And it's good to be back, okay? I hope you guys had a great time while I was gone. Thank you. You know how that works here, but just in case you're visiting for the first time, I saw a few of you, that here at Livestreams, we go through series, topics, and then we take a break and do special things. And so for the past 2 weeks, we had some special events. I heard they were well attended, and I'm very happy about that. But we are back and ready to go with a new series that will close out this winter season here. But let's start by reminding ourselves of the vision of Livestreams. It comes from Psalm 1, which describes the blessed life as like a tree that is planted by the streams of water. And that is a good thing. You know what realtors say? Location, location, location. So that's the right place to be, right by the streams of water, where all the water then streams into the tree, giving it life and vitality. And so that's what we're doing here on Wednesday nights. We pick life-relevant topics so that God's Word is immediately applicable into your life, and we do that as a series. And so we are ready to launch a brand new series tonight, and it's called Speaking Without Words, okay? That's the title, and that's the topic that we have here. And so we're talking about communicating, but without words, okay? So I don't know if you've thought about it that way, but all it takes is a couple minutes tonight and you realize, oh yeah, this is a big deal here. This is very, very important. Now, all experts will tell you that communication is the key to any relationships, not just marriage, but any relationship in your life, at church, school, work, family, whatever. Communication is the key. Now, for most people, they think of communication as just talking, okay? So if you go to like a communication workshop, it's primarily on talking. But Reality is that there's another whole area or reality that involves not talking. That's what I call tonight nonverbal communication, or as the title says, speaking without words. Yeah, there is such a thing. But anyway, this whole topic of communication is so important, and as I say, experts say that it is the key. At live streams, we have actually had a series on communication every season. And so if you go to our website, livestreamsonline.net, you're going to find a ton of stuff because we've done it every year on some aspect of communication. And so that's my commitment to you, that if it's the key to a relationship, we're going to keep talking about it. And so you're going to find stuff, and tonight is just another installment on that very large and important topic called communication. But as I said, most people think that is just verbal. But again, if you compare, it is actually a smaller part to this much larger part on nonverbal communication. So it's about not talking, okay? And so that's what this series is about. And so we're going to start with a simple definition. I'm going to put it on the screen for those of you who are taking notes, and feel free, Tricia already gave you the emails and texts. You can start texting right now as your mind is stimulated about all kinds of scenarios. But let me put a simple definition on the board. Wordless communication, okay? So that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about all forms of communication that does not involve actual speaking. Okay, make sense? That's the topic on the table. So again, speaking of communication, there's a texting right there. Go ahead, because I'm sure all of you have experienced all kinds of crazy things related to nonverbal communication here. So here's the proposal tonight, okay? And that is, before you actually speak, okay, this is what experts are saying. Before she speaks, okay, so that's the verbal. Let me take that off the board again. Before she speaks, that's the proposal. There is something else that actually gets to the other person. That's called the nonverbal, okay? So way before the words actually travel to the person, they're already getting a message from you. And that whole category is called the nonverbal. Now, however way you count it, experts come up with about 13 major categories of nonverbal communication. We're not going to cover all 13 tonight, okay? We got to get those little ones over there to bed, all right? So we're not going to cover all 13. I'm just going to quickly give you 7 tonight so that you can get warmed up to this series. And then by next week, we're really going to be rolling and searching the scriptures about this whole concept. Wow, does the Bible even talk about this? Oh yeah. You got to hang on to your seats because we got a lot to cover here. But let's go through the 7 right now. You guys ready? Here's number 1. This is the first category of nonverbal communication, and that is visual. This is always the first one because this is the biggest, the most obvious category, and that is, remember, we're not talking about words now. We're talking about nonverbal things. The first obvious category is what you see. So things like facial expressions. In fact, experts say up to 80% of nonverbal communication is visual. Okay, so we're talking about things like the face, okay, the eye contact, and so forth. Very, very important. But what if there isn't eye contact, okay? That happens a lot where, have you ever talked to somebody and they're trying to avoid eye contact with you? That happens too. That's all part of the message that is being communicated. And so some people, for example, if they avoid eye contact, fidget in their seats, twirl their hair, whatever, maybe they're lying, okay? And so those are the kinds of feelings that people get. And so, with your eyes and with your lips turned to the side, you're smirking and you're playing with your hair. Does that send a message or what? You know what I'm talking about? And so this is the category. Number 1 is visual. It's about eyes, mouth, turned to the side. It's about hands. It's about all these things. It's about hair. Does hair communicate? Oh, yeah. So you look at a person, he's got short hair, clean cut. What kind of message does that convey? Maybe he's conservative, smart, successful. I don't know. It's not my favorite haircut. I'm thinking about changing my hairstyle. Okay, what do you think? What if I come next week looking like that? Do you think that might send a message? You know what I'm saying? Does it send a message? It absolutely sends a message. Now, of course, number one is the largest, and there's so much related to it, but we just don't have the time. So we got to move to number two. Number two is audible. Audible is what? Things you hear, right? Okay, so things you hear, and boys and girls, what does it say? What does that say? Well, I'm not sure what it says, actually, okay? Because, you see, we're talking about wordless communication, so I'm not sure what this really means. And so, to help us, excuse me, I got a cough drop in my mouth. To help us understand what this means, I have actually invited 3 international audio experts tonight. And they actually happen to be sitting right behind me, right here, okay, to help us. And so, you guys see this phrase behind you? Come here, please. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 3 pieces of paper. Each one has a name on it. And on it are ways to say that phrase. You can only say those 3 words. Come here, please. Okay? I'm going to start with Trisha. Okay? Don't look at it yet. David, this is your style. And Candy, this is your style. I will give you 5 seconds to look at it, and then Trisha, ready to go. You guys, go ahead, take a look.
I have to say this
in that style. You got to say those 3 words, come here, please, but you have to say it in the style that is on there. Ready, Trisha? Go ahead. And you guys, tell me, you have to say to them, and so they have to, now you have to interpret what she says. Okay, so Trisha, go ahead.
So I have to say that in this style?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, but you have to say it.
Oh! I'm not very good at communicating, apparently. All right. Come here, please.
Oh, isn't that what? That's sweet. And that's friendly. That's exactly the word that I put on there. Sweet and friendly. Good job, Trisha. Good job. Okay. Good job, all of you. You guys interpreted that correctly. Okay. Now, you have to say it, but in the style that is on that paper. You ready? David?
Come here now. Military style.
That's the military style. Okay. Remember last Sunday, you looked at me and you went, okay? That's why I gave that to you.
Didn't work then either.
Okay. Okay, say those 3 words. Candy, would you say those 3 words, but in a different style?
Come here, please.
Okay, now what is that? Okay, so like exasperated or frustrated or exhausted. Okay, so what do those 3 words mean? Well, it depends, right? It depends on how it is said. And so here's the point. Category number 2 is about what you hear. And the whole point, remember what experts are saying. They're saying before you hear, before you get the words, you're actually getting what in this case? Tonal qualities. You're getting tones. You're getting rhythm. You're getting volume, okay? Somebody might yell it to you, come here, please. Or they might whisper it. And so volume, pitch, rhythm, speed of pronunciation, all of these things can express all kinds of things. So it's not just simply 3 words. Make sense so far? These are very, very important. So that category gone is the idea of all the things that come out of your mouth. That's not the words, the tone. By the way, women are so much more sensitive than men. And so husbands, have you heard from your wives, I don't like your tone, okay? Or can you say that better or say it nicely? And so there's that dynamic that occurs right there. All right. 3rd category is physical. And with this category, we're talking about things like body language. And so take a look at the screen. You see all the different ways that your body communicates things way before. Again, that's the concept. before the actual words reach the person. So all the ways you cross your legs this way, that way, the way you stand, convey all kinds of different things. People who kind of move back convey things. People who get close convey things. Some people like to touch. That's a big part of this category. So a lot of people like to touch, and some people don't like to touch. And so those things are a part of it. Now, related to this is actually a very trendy research concept called proxemics. And proxemics is the study of how people use and perceive space around them, near, far. You see that concept at the bottom you might be familiar with, personal space. And so the closer you get to the person, it becomes much more intimate. The further away becomes less personal. And all of those things are major factors. And if you've traveled internationally, you know that in different cultures, personal spaces are different, right? Like in the Middle East, I think it's much more closer. And here in America, we value a certain space around us, and we don't like that to be violated by people that we don't know. All of those things happen. Or you go to like a place, right? And if there's a big desk there in front of you, that conveys something. Or if there's no desk, that conveys something. All of these things, such as room arrangements and so forth, are very important. So again, not necessarily talking about tones at this point, but body, the way people move. You know, some people are just very, very friendly, for example, and they can communicate certain things and be kind of flirty, you know what I mean? And guys are not very good at interpreting body language. And so they're automatically going to think, I think she likes me, you know? When maybe she doesn't like you, she's just friendly. And so this can lead to all kinds of mixed messages, you know what I'm talking about? And all kinds of misunderstandings and so forth. Like, sounds like it happened out there a few times. All right. So all of these things are going on. So she may like you, but maybe she doesn't. She's just a really friendly person. And so all of these things happen all the time. All right. Next category. Material. We communicate things non-verbally in a material way. The most obvious one is clothes. Do clothes convey things? Oh yeah. The way you dress is one of the most common non-verbal forms of communication. So you dress a certain way, and that's going to convey a certain message. In fact, clothing is very much connected to mood. You know what I mean? Have you ever dressed saying, you know, I feel a certain way today. If you're happy, sad, whatever, you feel a little more adventurous and so forth. And so you go through your closet and you look for clothes that kind of express how you feel that day. All of those things are very much. Guys, did this ever happen to you? Of course it did. You dress really sloppy, and then somebody comes up to you and goes, are you feeling all right? Are you feeling sick? Are you tired? And so those things happen. Because, you see, guys don't care. Guys are really insensitive when it comes to this whole topic. You're going to hear me talk about guys a lot through this whole topic. Because guys just simply don't care about how they look. You know what I mean? They just want to be comfortable. So they'll just take out their favorite shirt, even though their guts hanging out, their favorite baggy pants. They don't care if they got big stains all over it, okay? Or they washed it last month. It doesn't matter. They're going to wear it while they're watching TV. And of course, their wives can't stand it. And so you know what their wives do? When their husbands aren't looking, they throw it away, right? And the husbands totally forget about it. And so problem solved right there. And so these things are going on all the time. You know what I'm talking about? Clothes. How about cars? Okay? So if you duct tape your car, look at the picture, around the exhaust pipe and down and over the whole trunk so the trunk doesn't fly open, and you keep it that way for 10 years, do you think that that conveys a message? Oh yeah. That tells you a lot about who you are, right? We're talking about nonverbal communication, speaking without words is the topic on the table. All right, we got to go through these topics fast. Number 5, what is this? Olfactory. It is the sense of smell, right? And so let's confirm that a woman's nose, okay, that's a woman's nose, because if it's a man's nose, it'd have all kinds of hair coming out of it, okay? So this is a woman's nose up there, okay? And women are just incredibly sensitive to smells. And so women love smells or hate smells. Do you know that's why guys, women buy candles. They just love the smell of that candle. You know what I'm saying? So, but guys, they don't care. Have you never seen a guy go up there and smell that candle? They don't care. So those are the differences there between somebody who is really sensitive. So, Chanel number 5. Okay? But for guys, you know, they just roll something on their underarms and they're ready to go for the rest of the day. So they just throw in the Old Spice. They don't care about things like that. So this is how it works. All day long, you know, you're hot and sweaty, working all day long. And so you put on the Old Spice in the morning, but at night, you just smell old and spicy. And so now, you jump into bed, okay, and you see your wife there, you haven't seen her all day, you want to cuddle with her, but that's not going to happen because you stink. And she's like, get away, take a shower, okay? So in the 25 years of counseling that I've done, sometimes when a woman gets really mad, she'll start insulting the guy, and she'll say a whole bunch of stuff, rapid firing all these things she doesn't like about the guy, and then sure enough, it'll come out, and you smell bad too. And so those things come out because, again, the smell is very much connected to memory and anger and happiness and all of these things. It's all connected together. So non-verbally, is this an important category? Very much so. You know, talking about smells, in the Bible, in 2 Corinthians chapter 16, it talks about the great work that God does in saving people. And it uses, and I don't have time to explain all this. I did a sermon on this. I can show you if you're interested. But it talks about an aroma that goes up. And for those who are part of the victory parade, it is an aroma that brings life. Now, it's the same smell, but that same smell also is the smell of death. The aroma that brings death. And so how interesting that one smell is interpreted in different ways. And we're talking about nonverbal experiences here, okay? Now the next category is really important, so lend me your ears, okay? Hint, hint. It's listening, okay? Listening is a major category. Now some of you smart ones out there are wondering, what's the difference between number 6 and number 2? Audible. Here's the difference. Number 2 is about reacting to like tonal qualities, volume, pitch, stuff like that. So it's more of a reaction to like, hey, I don't like your tone of voice, that kind of stuff. But number 6 is not that. Number 6 is, listen, very important, is an active decision to pay attention to the actual words of the other person. It is an incredibly powerful thing. So much so that I'm going to Skype in 2 weeks one of the experts in this area on listening, because this is one of the things that break a marriage, break relationships, when the spouse says, you don't listen to anything that I say. And so we're not talking about category 2, we're talking about number 6, which is very, very important. And Scripture actually has a lot to say about paying attention to teachings, to the other person, and so forth. In fact, pop quiz, you guys ready? What does James chapter 1, verse 19 say? Anyone? Everyone should be... Thank you, Gay. Wow, we have a scholar amongst us. Everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak. And so you have there essentially a nonverbal command, right? We're talking about nonverbal things. So right now you should already be warmed up to the fact that the Scripture does contain more than verbal stuff. It contains a whole world of nonverbal things that are very important. And again, I'm just very surprised there aren't enough teachings and workshops and things on this. This is a huge category that we need to look into. And again, I promise in a couple weeks, we're going to look into it in much more depth, and it will be much bigger than you have thought about, okay? So go ahead and put a star next to number 6. Very, very important. But last but not least, I said there's about 13 categories, but I decided to put the others in the dumpster because we don't have time. I'm just going to give you one more. And the last one is the ultimate nonverbal category, and that is silence. You can't get any more opposite than talking, right? Than that, right? Now you're not saying anything at all. Now, does not saying anything convey a message? Oh yeah, it does. In fact, it's very complicated, right? I mean, what does that mean? Maybe the person has a problem with you. Or maybe the person doesn't have a problem with you, but is just kind of lost in thought. Have you ever gone to somebody and say, "What's wrong?" And they're like, "Oh, no, nothing. I'm just lost in thought." That happens. Or maybe that person is mad at you. And we had a series on anger where one style of anger is clamming up. And so here's a style where you're angry, but you are not saying anything. Or have you ever had this? You're in a car, and you're with somebody, and you think that you're going to have this great conversation, but it ends up being dead silent. And so now this car ride is like 30 minutes long, but it feels like forever. You just want to get out of that car, right? Because that's a very awkward situation, being in a car. Or what about this? Since we're talking about the broader category in this technological world, how about not returning emails? Like you send an important email, right? And you're expecting a response, and then 2 weeks pass by and there's no response. What does that mean? And now you think about all kinds of things, right? What could that possibly mean? That could be as simple as, "Oh, I forgot to respond to your email," or it could be something else. So these are very, very complicated things. Or if somebody doesn't say hello to you, okay, that's silence. What does that mean? Or, okay, it's not all negative, okay? There are, for example, positive things. Did you know, for example, in Proverbs chapter 26, verse 4, it says, "Do not answer a fool." And in that situation, you shouldn't, we have a phrase like that, right? It's like, "I'm not going to lower myself," right? It's that idea of entering into that conversation. So here's a situation where it's wise not to say something. So very, very complicated, very, very difficult. Next week, I'm going to take these 7 and make it even more complicated as things really do get very, very tricky as we go along. But hey, there's 7 right there. I consider that the top 7, and that's going to be kind of our little roadmap as we unpack this series. Now, we don't have a lot of time because we have tonight, we have next week, and then the following week, and then we've got Family Feud. And then we're heading into the Christmas break. And so we only have 3 parts to this series. Not a lot of time to talk about these things. Go ahead and text, email, write it down on a piece of paper, your thoughts, because this topic is going to get very, very practical about the many things in your life. But just give me just a couple more minutes as I come to the conclusion here. Can you guys get ready? Because we got to interact about these things. But let's just confirm that on the scale here, okay, we're going to take these 7. I'm going to put the 7 over here, okay, because it's a little bit heavier. You got 7 categories, or 13. And then on the other side, you've got 1, which is verbal, okay? And so studies show that it's about 55% nonverbal and 45% verbal. Now, I know Pastor Stan last Sunday said 90%. And a little bit of an exaggeration, but I liked it. It was very dramatic. I liked it, okay? So we want to say that that's kind of what it is, because remember, the scriptures do have a lot to say about verbal, right? And that's why we're in our 3rd year at live streams, and I've already had like 3 or 4 series on verbal communication. And so it is very, very important. I'm just adding this now as another installment onto that. So nonverbal, very, very important. Let's confirm the obvious. Nobody is just communicating with words. No one's doing that. Everybody is speaking without words. You know what I mean now? Make sense? That's the topic on the table. That's what this series is about. And so very, very important as we're going through it. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to search the scriptures and to see all this nonverbal things that are going on. And you might say, wow, I didn't know that. Because for some reason, we're so focused on verbal. We think that's all the Bible talks about. Not true. For example, when Adam sinned against God, he had a heart that was filled with guilt and shame. Okay? By the way, all the nonverbal things are related to your heart. It comes out in a nonverbal way. So when Adam sinned against God, there was guilt and shame, and that guilt and shame manifested itself in a nonverbal way. Like what? He covered himself up. And then when he heard God looking for him, what did he do? He went and hid. Those are nonverbal expressions. So somebody who's feeling very guilty about what they did will often remove themselves from situations, maybe 10 feet, 20 feet, or not come to church for a while, and you're like, hey, where's Joe? Haven't seen him in a long time. Okay? So things like that happen in a nonverbal way, and it does explain a lot. Jacob had a lot of sons, but he loved one son more. Red flag. This is a heart of selective love. We call it favoritism, and that can get you into a lot of trouble. Now, I don't remember reading in the story that Jacob called a meeting and verbally reported that he loved one son more than the others. It's not like he called all the sons together and said, my sons, I want you to know that out of all of you, I love that son more. He didn't do that because he didn't have to. It was obvious. His actions showed. He lavished gifts onto Joseph. And so, as he expressed selective love to Joseph, now all kinds of things are going to spin out of control, like anger, envy, jealousy, hatred, plotting of murder, all kinds of things, and you know how the story unfolds. And so, can you say that I love one child more than another without saying a word? Oh yeah. You can say that very, very clearly. In fact, true story of a pastor, he's a friend of mine. Okay, I'm not going to tell you who he is because I'll eventually Skype him. Okay? He told me the story that when he was young, he had this experience that it was just every day. Because, you see, he was adopted. And so every day at the dinner table, all the other children would get nice, fine china plates. And he would get, and this is a true story, he would get paper plate. Okay? By the way, do you know what it says in the fine print there? The subtitle of Dixie? It says, great for everyday meals. And so every day he was reminded that he was less. By the way, he turned out great. He's some big-time national director right now. But he has a lot of pain in his heart. And he carries it with him all the time. So I guess my question to you tonight is, do you carry any hurt from any experience in your family, school, or work that came to you non-verbally? Oh yeah, we all have stories like that. In fact, somebody said, your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. And so these are the things that we face all the time. And so we're going to look at some of these sinful responses. We're also going to look at positive responses next week, and I'm going to show you insights into how we can respond to nonverbal things. You know, things people say, you know, if you don't like somebody's tone of voice, hey, I don't like your tone of voice. Okay, I don't like the way you treat me. And then the response is, hey, you know that's the way I am, okay? You know that's the way I grew up, or the kind of responses that people say in return. We'll examine that plus other types of responses to try to get a biblical perspective. But for tonight, we got to close up shop and have a little bit of interaction over here. And let's talk about it. If you guys have any emails or texts, go ahead and send them. Or if you want to write it down, go ahead and do that. We can just spend a couple minutes talking about it, and then we're going to go pray about it. But what do you guys think? Any thoughts or any examples you guys want to share? Anything?
I learned something really new tonight, Pastor. You had a lot of pictures of ladies up there, and I didn't think ladies ever communicated non-verbally.
Oh, come on. Okay.
But I have a serious with them. As you were giving some of the biblical examples.
In fact, that's one of the main ways they communicate. And when you can't figure it out, they get mad. I don't know if this ever happened to you,
that's what's
right?
wrong. Yeah.
You walk into the house and you're like, honey, what's wrong? And she's like, nothing, right? But she's expecting you to figure out her nonverbal cues. And then she won't explain it to you because she's expecting you to figure it out. So,
Have
yeah,
you been to my house lately?
I've been behind the bushes watching. Okay.
I have a really interesting one. While you were talking, I was thinking about a biblical. We're in John now. And remember after Lazarus was raised, they had dinner over at Simon the leper's house in Bethany.
Yes.
It says, Martha was serving, but Mary was anointing Jesus' feet with the expensive stuff, and people were complaining. And Jesus got a message from what Mary did and not said. He says something like, she's actually anointing my body for my burial.
Yeah.
And so that's nonverbal communication.
It's nonverbal.
He got
In
it.
fact,
Yeah.
the scriptures take time to talk about graphic details such as her hair, the alabaster jar that she broke, the expensive perfume that was like 3 months' wages, to the tears that she shed there. And these are graphic details to show that she somehow knew that Jesus was Savior and somehow was expressing that faith in a nonverbal way. That's a powerful example right there, okay? But how funny that that powerful example was also misunderstood by the disciples who were absolutely upset that she was doing that because they're saying she could have used that money to help the poor, right? And so these are the mixed messages that can happen even with the best of intentions. And we'll look at that next week as well. Remember when Hannah was praying? Eli thought she was drunk. People can misunderstand the best of your intentions. That's a great example, David. Okay, Candy?
I was thinking about when Jesus didn't respond and he was drawing in the sand, drawing in the dirt sand, and how that might be interpreted as him being dismissive or arrogant, and yet to me it just it showed who he was. He was showing his divinity.
I see you thinking, Candy. That's actually an interesting category of many ways that he has communicated with his body in ways, again, without words, to go after the Pharisees, to make very, very strong statements, to use the stone. He is without sin. Throw the stone. I mean, there's definitely, of anybody, Jesus was the master of visuals. Everything from stones to birds in the air to lilies in the fields to drawing on the ground to pointing to the temple, tear this down in 3 days. He was the master at the nonverbal communication. And I think part of that is there's such power in the nonverbal things and the way that it communicates to us. And so there is a lot of drama there. Very visual. The woman that is caught and thrown to the ground, all of that is part of that whole dramatic scene. So very, very important. Very interesting, Candy. I like it. Okay. All right. So you guys getting a feel for what this series is about? We're talking about nonverbal things. Next week, we will talk about sinful responses to nonverbal things. We'll talk about things like people think, well, why can't I have this type of facial expression? Why can't I conduct myself this way? Why do I have to lower my volume? We'll talk about all of those things. We'll talk about biblical responses, all of those things related. And then we'll have a third session that is going to be very important with Dr. John Street, one of our favorites, will be Skyped in. And I'll tell you about that topic later. That's November 13th. We'll also have Officer Raul Alarcon along with Gus coming back on that day. So all of these things, lots of fun things. Go ahead and tell your friends and family to come and visit us next week as we continue to unpack the series, Speaking Without Words. All right, thank you guys. We'll see you next week.